You know, when you think of an Egyptian pharaoh, the image that probably pops into your head is a god king, dripping in gold with absolute, unquestionable power. But what if that's only half the picture? What if the job wasn't really about power, but about, well, a massive cosmic responsibility? Let's dig into that. We're going to look at the pharaoh not just as a ruler, but as a key piece of the universe's hardware, a person whose actual function was to literally keep existence from falling apart. Okay, so to really get the pharaoh's job description, first we have to understand the universe they were living in. And for the ancient Egyptians, that universe was, to put it mildly, fundamentally unstable. It was always on the verge of collapse. In their cosmology, see, the world wasn't born into peaceful order. It was dragged out of a primordial, watery chaos. But that chaos, it never really went away. It was always there, lurking at the edges of reality, just waiting for a chance to pull everything back into nothingness. This means that order wasn't a given. It was a project, something you had to fight for day in and day out. And this constant threat, this force of unraveling, the Egyptians had a name for it: Isfet. Isfet wasn't some cartoon villain. It was the natural state of things if you did nothing. It was injustice, lies, violence, basically everything that tears a society and the universe itself apart. The entire struggle of civilization was, at its core, a battle against Isfet. So if Isfet is the problem, the chaos trying to break in, what's the solution? Well, the Egyptians came up with an incredibly powerful concept to hold it all back. And that solution is Ma'at. Honestly, if you want to understand ancient Egypt, you have to understand Ma'at. It's the single most important idea. It's the divine principle of order, truth, and balance that governs absolutely everything. Think of it as the operating system for the universe, the blueprint for how creation is supposed to work. And Ma'at wasn't just some vague feeling of goodness. No, it was a whole framework for living. It included these core principles like truth and justice, sure, but also things like reciprocity, the idea of a fair, balanced exchange, and propriety, doing the right thing in the right way at the right time. It was a complete guide to a moral and cosmic life. So you can really see the two sides of the coin here. The entire Egyptian project was about championing everything on the left to keep everything on the right from taking over. This cosmic struggle was the backdrop for literally everything. But the big question is, how did they actually fight this battle? And this is where the pharaoh comes in. Because in this worldview, a cosmic struggle of this magnitude needed a champion, a representative right here on Earth. Now here's the kicker, and this is so important. Ma'at couldn't sustain itself. This divine order needed a human agent, someone who could act as a bridge between the world of the gods and the world of people, to constantly reinforce it. Without that human intervention, the universe would simply default back to chaos, back to Isfet. That is why the pharaoh existed. The role of the king wasn't just a good idea for organizing society, it was a cosmic necessity. The pharaoh was the pivot point, the central pillar connecting the human world to the divine, holding the whole structure of reality up. And this is such a critical distinction. You'd think being a god king would mean you can do whatever you want, right? Well, it was the complete opposite. All that divine power was chained to an even greater responsibility, to act only in accordance with Ma'at. Every single decision was measured against that cosmic standard. And look, this isn't just a neat theory. It's grounded in deep academic work, like what you see here, which really breaks down the foundations of Egyptian kingship. It was a system built not on personal privilege, but on this profound, heavy-duty throne. So what did the job description for Guardian of the Cosmos actually look like? Well, every major role was tied to it. He was the one and only go-between for gods and humans. He was the chief priest for every temple, the supreme judge, and all of these titles, all these powers, served one ultimate purpose: to be the guarantor of cosmic balance. All right, so we've covered the what of the pharaoh's job. Now let's get into the how. I mean, how does one person actually go about, maintaining reality every single day? Well, the absolute core of the work was ritual. The relationship between people and gods was seen as a two-way street. The gods provided all the things needed for life: the sun, the Nile's flood, the air we breathe. In return, the pharaoh had to sustain them, to feed them through constant offerings and by taking care of their temples. If he failed, the gods might just withdraw their support. And then Isfet wins. And this all culminates in the single most important ritual a pharaoh could perform: the presenting of Ma'at. Just picture this for a second. The pharaoh goes into the most sacred part of a temple, to the statue of the god itself. And what does he offer? Not gold, not jewels, but a tiny little statue of the goddess Ma'at. This single act was like a cosmic status report. It was him saying, I've done my job. Order is secure. I've upheld my end of the bargain. And in doing that, he renewed the divine contract that kept the universe running. And this duty went way beyond the temple walls. Pretty much every major act of the state was seen as an expression of Ma'at. Passing a just law, that's upholding Ma'at. Building a massive temple, or even a pyramid, these weren't just vanity projects. They were seen as concrete, physical actions that reinforced cosmic order and literally pushed back the forces of chaos. You could think of them as prayers made of stone and policy. So, what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? What's the big picture here? Well, it's a pretty profound statement about humanity's place in the universe. One scholar puts it just perfectly. The king was the pillar supporting creation. Just let that sink in. In this worldview, the pharaoh wasn't just ruling a country. He was a fundamental piece of cosmic architecture. He was the pillar holding up the sky. And that's the final, absolutely incredible idea here. The Egyptians believed that their society, their rules, their rituals, their leader had a direct, physical impact on the stability of the entire cosmos. A just ruling in a small courtroom in Thebes was an act that helped keep the stars in their courses. Human order was cosmic order. It really forces you to reevaluate our own ideas about power, doesn't it? This ancient model gives us a vision of leadership where the goal isn't personal gain or fame, but the simple, daily, and incredibly heavy work of just holding our world together.